It is the Anfield rap, Neil Atkinson. Rob Gutmann laughing at my clap that I do so that we can line the video and the audio up. You can watch this on YouTube at the same time. It just makes it like a clapperboard, Rob. It makes it easier for them.
It never stops being funny to me. I don't know why.
It never doesn't scare me.
I think that's a bit of that.
I jumped.
It's the tension. I like that. Excites me.
I've got Siobhan Biggane. I've got Jamie Webster. All of us together to talk about the Reds. Predominantly talking about Liverpool versus West Ham United, but we might also get over and have a bit of a chat about Atalanta. And we might get onto some other matters as well, with reference to things being said on Match of the Day. But I mentioned before, I've got Jamie, I've got Siobhan, and I've got Rob. And Jamie, a slog, but another slogged. They had to work ever so hard. They weren't that good at times, Liverpool, but they won the game.
Yeah, I think this is what we're going to have to get used to over the next few weeks, you know, until big players are back and players who are stepping in for big players who are obviously out in Van Dijk, they can, you know, take time to develop partnerships at the back and stuff like that. So at the moment, the team's changing every week. Do you know what I mean? We're picking up injuries. We're trying to keep players fresh because we're playing a lot of games. Listen, it's the mentality that counts. Do you know what I mean? For me, we're having to dig deep every week like we were last season, and it seems that the players have still got that focus, drive and determination to keep, you know, just keep applying the pressure until they get that second goal or the goal to, you know, take them a goal ahead.
It's 3 home wins after, Jamie's saying it there, 3 home wins and 3 after going behind, Rob. And you can begin to go back to talking about mentality. It's not felt that much like last season, arguably even until Sheffield United. You've almost half forgotten there's a league to be won, but Sheffield United and West Ham United and 2-2-1s have very much reminded us there is a league to be won, and these lads look really focused on it.
It feels like we've played the same game now 4 times over. I can't count Arsenal and Midtjylland in it as well. They felt like the same game, more or less. Different levels of opposition. Doesn't matter who they are. It's the same game. I saw a stat that says last 10 times we've been behind at Anfield, we've won. The last 10. That's remarkable. What's coming out at the moment? I think that Van Dijk thing, on top of the Villa thing, and they're like 2 of the biggest calamities in the history of the club, and they are quietly. If you think, well, one is our biggest defeat since before even I was born, right?
Yeah. It's
a ridiculously demoralising result. We can't understate it in isolation. And then Van Dijk's the biggest injury I think we've ever had in any given moment, or an injury news we've ever had to deal with as a club, in terms of a big player suddenly being we know he's not available for the foreseeable. And I think those battered the confidence of the most confident team in the world. And it's going to take a little bit to get back from that. But what we're using instead of confidence is mentality, winning mentality. And it's incredible to see that winning the day time and time again in a very, very difficult phase for us.
The thing about Siobhan is, with all 3 wins, or 4 if you want to include Midtjylland, even though they don't go behind in a sense, is that there are moments where Liverpool just aren't very good. But in all 3 of the games, Arsenal, Sheffield United and West Ham, they actually in the end deserve the points. They create the better chances, they do the better football.
Yeah, and I think that there is an element of the opposition that you've got to take into account there, and that the quality, even on a bad day, Liverpool are going to be better than those teams across a 90-minute game. But there is also a sense of, you go behind, you realise, shit, we've been a bit complacent there, better, you know, sort ourselves out, and you get that kick up the bum that you need to go and do something better. But as the guys have just said, you know, it's proper mentality, isn't it? And it's kind of helping, I think, us get through the grief curve of losing Van Dijk. You know, like, every win pushes us more towards acceptance and kind of, you know, overcoming it. And I think that, listen, all you can ask is, it doesn't matter how you win, as long as you win. I made a deal with myself. I sat down with my fella the other night. I said, I'm no longer calling a winning performance a bad performance. I'm no longer doing it, because there used to be like 3 ways to win a game, and Liverpool this season have had to figure out 23 ways to win a game, and they're going to have to carry on.
Yeah.
So as long as they win, and you know what, even when they don't, I'm just going to have to stop telling myself that was bad. All right, phases can be bad, but there's no such thing as a bad win at the moment.
There is such a thing as, the other part of this is that you end up with, if not quite new heroes, Jamie, you end up with new stories, and Phillips on Saturday becomes one of them. He does really well in the air. It helps that West Ham keep playing it to him in the air, so he can win that battle. But you're left sort of with this fella who they tell you is 23. He's still, in a sense, he's still older than Gomez. He looks about 38. But you're just sort of willing him on in quite a level that reminds you of all your football watching life. Sometimes there's a player and you're just right behind him at everything he does.
Yeah, and I think that's how you've got to be with a young lad coming in. And Gomez is still a young lad, but Gomez has had 6 years of experience playing in the side. Phillips, he comes in. you know, what I initially liked about Phillips anyway was last year when he just come back to play that game against Everton and went straight back out on loan. Just like that, you know what I mean? I just think,
see you next year, folks.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
That's my bit done.
He was like, that showed to me that he was buzzing to come back, play at Anfield in front of the crowd. Do you know what I mean? That's where he wants to be. And when he come in yesterday, I was a bit of a surprise because, you know, obviously he's not in the European squad, is he, Phillips? And Reece Williams is. So I was expecting Reece Williams to play. I really was. And when he come into the side, it didn't fill me with any less confidence or any more confidence. It was just, okay, well, let's see how he fares. And he took the opportunity with both hands, as far as I'm concerned. His aerial duels, it was just every time. I think he must have only lost at least about one. Yeah. You know, I think he was by far the best player on the pitch in the air that day. Like Klopp said, he's not the greatest, tidiest footballer, but most working class people aren't, you know what I mean? Who watch it. So for me, I'm not the greatest, tidiest footballer, but I do what I need to do.
There was for me, it was like old man's Roy of the Rovers stuff. Rob. Yeah. That's what I felt I was watching. There was a little bit this thing in the back of my brain sort of going, you could still do a job because all he does is he just wins his battles in the most direct way, but also what the whole team do, and that's what this team's so good at. It's obviously led by the captain, but it isn't just him. They all help him. They're all near him. They're all saying, you know, making it easy for him when he's got to pass the ball, and it just becomes this. You know, I'm pleased Carragher gave him man of the match. I don't think he was man of the match. Who was the best footballer on the pitch? It wasn't him, but I was really pleased Carragher gave him man of the match because it was like, who's the story? Who's the feel good hit of the summer? Well, I think you'll find it's Nat Phillips tonight.
Yeah, he needed to be a confidence boosting performance by him, and it was. I mean, I've always felt that the day would come where we need to replace Virgil van Dijk, even through short-term injury, age, whatever. And you think you'll never replace him because he's by far the best defender in the world. But he does. But Virgil van Dijk's about four players in one. He's the best header of the ball. He's a Xabi Alonso. He's also the best in a foot race, and he's the most concentrated in a one-on-one. So, okay, you're never going to get all that in one human being again, ever.
And he's a leader as well.
Oh, sorry, and that bit. Yeah. In fact,
vocally, someone else to fit in.
He could lead an army into battle on his day off. You know, But when you look around, sort of the options around the leagues, big rocks who head the ball away are quite hard to find these days. Yeah. And Phillips, we said, West Ham played into his hands, but we wanted one of them for those days where you are up against lads like Haller who can head the ball and put you under pressure in the air.
It was terrible, by the way.
Yeah,
he was absolutely pathetic.
But once, on the days where we're up against nippy little sods on the ground, then you can ask Jordan Henderson to do a job at centre-half, maybe, if everyone else is injured. You may not need a Nat Phillips for that, but for a day where it's all coming arid, I think he was absolutely fine. I mean, hopefully he's not a one-hit wonder. Hopefully he can build on it. It's a bit of a shame he can't play in the week.
He can't play in the week, and you wouldn't start him at City.
No. You see, they're exactly the sort of team God forbid they do us in the air, but they feel to me, against Raheem, it's a long way down for Nat Phillips to look to see Raheem's twinkly little feet there.
I agree. I think Matip's been wrapped in cotton wool for that game anyway, personally.
Well, it's just come out just as we're recording this. Matip's training, full training. So he's supposedly in contention for Atalanta, but I think he's getting wrapped in cotton wool for City. You think that change is coming back.
Thiago in that training photo you've seen?
No, not back in full training.
I do the same thing, to be honest. To be perfectly honest.
So you end up in a situation where Matip will start, I think, against City. Siobhan, it's whether or not he starts against Atalanta. I don't think he'll have him starting both. But it doesn't, where Phillips is concerned, yes, we concede an early goal. It'd be easy for him to be on his own back, or for the team to be thinking, oh, we're 1-0 down, we've got this lad playing and it's his first ever Premier League start. No one feels sorry for themselves.
Definitely not.
That's what's so impressive.
Definitely not. And I think you don't want anyone to make an error, but it's good that the young lad doesn't, the new lad doesn't make the error that leads to it. I think it's the fact that he looks like he works in IT that's the most shocking thing. And he's he looks like he's telling you to turn your computer on and off again, and you're going rolling your eyes at him. But he's he was so calm, he was so assured. That header for their corner at the very end, which he did after he got man of the match. I just thought that.
It was like a goal.
Yeah, it was exactly.
Can you imagine if that full stadium there when he had that ball away?
That's what I was getting to.
It was being like a Colo Touré moment, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Where he'd do something unbelievably like Colo Touré-esque.
And also, you've got to take his performance in its context, haven't you? That's probably why Carragher gave the man of the match to him. Is that first of all, Carragher's a lad who knows what it's like to come in as a young lad, or albeit younger, probably, I can't remember, but. come in under pressure, come in to fill the boots of the best player in the world, as we've just said, in a game, in a season when we've already shipped too many goals, and still not be completely assured and be completely sensible about it.
I love this first touch. That told me everything you need to know about what they discussed.
When he came over the top, yeah.
No, it wasn't with his head. It was his foot, wasn't he? He just boots it.
Yeah.
Any other centre half we've got is courage to take a touch, have a look, 5-yard pass, boots. He'd obviously gone, Nat, you just get rid, okay? Yeah. Every fucking
first 15,
time.
you just settle and you just do what you want. The ball's not your business.
So down with that.
And we've seen too much of that, I think, like too much like intricate play that hasn't come off, and I think that's probably been his complete mandate, is to go and just, as you said before, just win your battles. Don't do another thing except get rid of that ball when it comes anywhere near you.
We'll sort the second ball later.
We'll do it, yeah.
Can I just throw, I mean, I know we're talking about Nat Phillips and everything else, and he was amazing, but there's something that's been digging at me now for a few weeks, and I just want to know if people agree with me. Xherdan Shaqiri, quality footballer.
Well, Xherdan was my next one on my list, in that when we're talking about stories, Jamie, all from nowhere, I spent the whole summer thinking he's going to go, and he's become another one-man icon, in that you're just so excited by him, but also he just looks like he's having the time of his life.
New hair, lads, new man.
We'll do Jota in a minute as well. Yeah, we'll do the hair in a minute and Jota in a minute, because there's 3 of these now really weird things where, if you'd have said to me 7 games in, we'll be talking about Nat Phillips, Xherdan Shaqiri and Diogo Jota, I'd have said, no way. No. But Shaqiri was unreal.
Listen, for me, Shaqiri, every time he comes into the team, I know I don't see him training every day, and we all trust in Jürgen, so whatever, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even open my mouth on that front. But he come in against Barcelona, and I'm going back a bit here, but it's bringing me to somewhere. Coming against Barcelona, absolutely unbelievable performance. Then he didn't play for the best part of about 6 months, 7 months. Then he come in at Anfield against Everton in the league last year. A goal, assist, unbelievable performance. Didn't see him again then. right. And then he's come in this season in bit part performances and stuff. And every time he's come in, he's looked like he's done exactly what he's supposed to do. On the ball, he holds the ball up so well. He very rarely gives it away. And those passes that he finds, if Thiago's playing them passes week in, week out, we're all going absolutely nuts. That little reverse ball that he plays in behind, I'd actually challenge someone to pick to screen how many of them he's played just this season when he's played.
Well, he was brilliant at Lincoln. So we get to the game at Lincoln.
His first touch is a free kick into the top bin. It's unbelievable.
He's brilliant at Lincoln, and now he's settled into the last few, and he's so alive, Rob. And the thing about him is, like when he came off at Lincoln and Jürgen put his arm around him, I almost thought Jürgen might have been saying, that's your last, I hope you enjoyed that. That's probably the last time you play for Liverpool, because we all thought he was going to go. No one's come in. And it looks to me just like he's seeing it as bonus time. There's something about him that feels so vital, like he's just delighted to be there and to be part of this and being able to exhibit exactly how good he is.
Yeah, I think the thing about him as a player is he's always actually been quietly ridiculously good on the ball. I don't think I remember when we had these sort of arguments about whether he was a good buy or not initially. Your concerns were that, he's got all the tools, but his decision-making looks appalling. At Stoke, where they built the team around him, he'd just take a touch, look sideways and blam it and do something stupid. Or be their best player, but it was too binary. But when he came to us, he seemed to have this humility to sort of just fit in, cute little passes, not over-ambitious at times, but always had that quality and that explosiveness. It's almost at the stage where you look at what he does and how he wins this match for us at the weekend, you go, you could quietly build a team around him, I think that's not the worst thing in the world.
I think the difference with Stoke was he was playing for Stoke. Do you know what I mean? I think the players are nowhere near the levels that the players. He had to
be the best player on the field.
Yeah, he was, and I think probably he took responsibility upon himself a lot of the time when he is pulling them shots, because it's either that or hang a ball into the back post every time and time again to who, you know what I mean? So I think there's an aspect to that, but for me as well, he's a match winner. He comes on and he scores big goals and he contributes to big goals, big things that happen in the game, and he really is. I think for me, I'll move on now from me, but I think ahead of Jones and Minamino, he's got to play.
Yeah, I agree.
Made up with him. And his hair.
I just absolutely cannot believe that Xherdan Shaqiri and Diogo Jota are the sporting partnership we never knew we needed. I'm just still seeing, it's like they played before, Wolves. It's like I'm wondering, did they play together as kids somewhere, because they just seem to link in so well. And Xherdan Shaqiri, I just think he's a proper puzzle for the opposition because they just don't know what he's going to do. Neither do we. And I think he always pulls the most unexpected pass that cuts through a defence. Like, how many did West Ham have in the box? About 9 for that one that he puts through for Jota.
Yeah, there's something that's going on there that we're playing against sides who have got so many defenders because West Ham have a back 5. Then the centre mids are Rice and Souček, who, by the way, if they were playing centre half, you go sound. They're enormous. Yeah. Like, Declan Rice could be the biggest human I've ever seen in my life who can run. He's enormous.
They actually think Sadio Mane is one of their defenders. There's that many bodies, and the colours are a bit. So they're only seeing sort of certain shades West Ham defenders. So there's too many bodies in there, and he threads it, and you think, why haven't they reacted? They just haven't reacted. It's superb vision, but on Jota's run, it is mad. It is like you've suddenly signed, as though we've been a team of yard dogs and we've signed 2 quality players. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they've really lived like Everton, for example. They've got James Rodriguez. Now we've got a footballer. It's crazy how they made Mane, Salah, and Firmino look a bit pedestrian,
a bit jaded. On Jota, it's another massive goal. He scores the one before, and again the same thing. This team, like, what must it be like around that training camp is one of the things I'm thinking at the minute, Siobhan, because Jota comes in and he's like everyone else in terms of adversity. He's just had one chalked off that felt a bit touch and go, but I'm all right with it broadly.
You can make your peace with it, can't you?
But he has that one. We'll come on to that in a minute. He has that one chalked off, and then he's just fine to go and just slot this one. And it's like, this is just what we do. We play for Liverpool.
He's just having like the best time, and I think he just knows that the more he does this, the more he's going to play. And like, I think, the mentality to just go, all right, sound, all right, well, I was perfectly fine, Manny was borderline perfectly fine, all right, chalk it off, I'll just go and do it again. And like, imagine being West Ham in that scenario and going, he's just going to come and do it again. Like, it's completely relentless. And I think that the more,
it's a 50-goal season for him. That's what's coming. It's like Salah. It's a 50-goal season.
You heard a lot on the Anfield Wrap from Wolves fans when he left that, like, he'll score in 3 games and then he'll just go off the radar for 2 months. I just don't see that happening. No. I think it's so refreshing to have someone come off the bench who can properly change the game and fit into whatever system is happening and change the game. And seeing someone come off the bench with the first touch is just absolutely glorious, isn't it? But I'm dead excited to see what he does next game and next game and next game.
Do we have to talk about Bobby Firmino? Because I think we do.
Now,
okay.
Put it on hold. The reason why I'll ask you genuinely is, and if any one of the 3 of you says, I will, then we can talk about it now. But wouldn't we all start him at the Etihad?
I would start him at the Etihad.
Yeah. Because he's a big game player.
I think we've got a lot of Firmino chats. I genuinely mean this, like in the international break, because I think there's every chance as well that it doesn't go so well for him. I think his biggest issue is he isn't scoring, and he's missing big chances. I thought it might be different after last week, but he looks to me just so underconfident.
Not shooting. He's not shooting. That's the big thing. You can't be a number 9 and not shoot. I also am not sure. I think his work rate is there because he's such an honest, fantastic team player. But I'm not sure the aggression and the bite is there.
I think that's all because
it's linked to confidence.
He's not scoring. So
he's lacking in confidence, and we may have to shatter his confidence to get him back to where we want him to be. I mean, I hate to say,
but you would start him at the Etihad.
I would, yes. But
and I think if Jurgen Klopp sitting there, he's saying to me, "Akko, it's not even a question. He's starting at the Etihad."
Yeah. But he might end up being my first sub as well, because if he's not looking right. Phil Blundell said something about a year ago, I'm going to say, which he got to have egg on his face over shortly after. It wasn't a year ago. It was about a month before the World Club Championship. He went, I think Firmino might be finished, right? As though we'd run him into the ground. It was a bit of a mad shout. And then Bobby scores like 4 in 5 or 5 in 6.
And big goals.
And big goals.
And
Phil shrugged and we all moved on. And I don't think Bobby Firmino's finished. But I do think there are signs that he may not have much in the tank at the moment.
Well, we might have run him really... Since Klopp's come in, we can talk about Klopp's home record and all that sort of stuff. 63 unbeaten now.
Yeah.
But the linchpin has been, since the day Klopp arrived, it's been Firmino. Firmino runs and runs. And Jamie, at some point that will take its toll on any footballer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you've only got to look at the injuries that we initially picked up when Klopp came in. It was a different sort of training. It was a different sort of work that the players were going to every single day. To play in Jurgen Klopp's team, you've got to be willing to put your body and mind to the absolute limit in order to achieve the successes that we are achieving at this moment in time. And yet it will take its toll on not only Bobby Firmino, it'll take its toll on other players as time goes on, you know what I mean? But for me, Bobby's just, confidence is a massive, massive thing in football. Really is. it's the difference between scoring 5 goals a season and 25 goals a season. It's confidence. And for me, at the Etihad, I think Bobby likes his performances against City in recent years, his goals against City in recent years.
Got a couple there, hasn't he?
Yeah. You know, he's a big game player, Bobby. Do you know what I mean? And like, I know I might have said that a couple of times already. This podcast about different players, but you know, I'd start him. I think Jota's been absolutely brilliant. I think it's no surprise he looks better at us than he does at Wolves because he's playing with, like, again, better players. But I do like Jota and Shaqiri both as impact players at the moment in time.
It's nice to be able to look at the bench and see what your sub's going to be, and it's those two.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, there'll be games where he will be. Well, Jota will be. He'll start from the first minute. He'll be on the pitch. But I think Man City. Let's go with what we know as our strongest team that's caused City so many problems before in the past. Do you know what I mean? We've got to go for it. Bobby Firmino's in the side, and then if it's not working, we have the luxury of Jota, Shaqiri, whoever's on the bench that day. Do you know what I mean? We might have a Wijnaldum on the bench if Thiago's fit and Fabinho's in midfield. Who knows? A couple of weeks, it's a week can be a long time in football. But I'll go with Bobby, and I think people calling him out on socials saying that he's finished and that, I just think you need to remember like what the lad's done for us in the past few years. To say he's finished, it's just a little bit,
No, he's not finished.
No, to say he's playing bad at the minute would be fair. Do you know what I mean? Or he's not playing his best at the minute. He doesn't look himself. That's fair. But to say he's finished, I think you should show him a little bit more respect.
I agree completely. Ridiculous stuff around Salah and the penalty, Rob. It's just a bit of a penalty. It's soft. Is it soft?
Yeah.
Of course it's soft. Should the leg kick him? Absolutely not. Is he going away from goal? Yeah. The idea that this becomes one of these rolling stories for a week, it just feels fundamentally unfair, and it feels just a little questionable, frankly. There's a lot of football players who get away with a lot of things in English football, and I'm all right with it. It's a game, first and foremost. It's a game. You're playing on the referee, etc., etc. It's ridiculous, this stuff around Salah, it really is, and it's beyond irritating. I don't like giving it credence, but you've sort of got to talk about it because people are being knobheads.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to always ask yourself, are you being paranoid? Because does every club have their issue where they're mistreated by the establishment? But there feels to me a lineage that goes back as far as Suarez in my mindset, where we ended up singing songs about Suarez never getting a pen, because every time Suarez did get a pen, it was seen as to be a connivance, as something not entirely honest. Every time Mane gets a pen, it's the same thing. Every time Salah gets a pen, it's the same thing. You know where I'm going with this. Yeah. But I'm not going to join the dots because it's obvious. But this time last season, I think we get do we not get another penalty after Christmas? I don't think we do.
We barely get a penalty. The amount of time we spend in the penalty area versus how few penalties we get is absolutely crackers.
We get 2 in a week, I think, which win games late in about October last season against Tottenham and against Leicester. And Mane wins both. And both times and they're both checked by VAR, so they're definite penalties. They're not fraud.
Yeah, they're both, like the Leicester one's soft, he's going away from goal, but the lad kicks him. If you kick someone, it's a kick.
Sorry to butt in, I'll go straight back to you. What attacking footballers are very good at nowadays is getting themselves in between the ball and the defender at a quick pace. Whether they're going towards or away from goal makes no difference. If the defender is clumsy and negligent enough to kick through the back of him, and it's in order to get the ball, he's made contact with the player. Of course, they're going to go down. Back to you, mate.
No, it's 100%. I mean, most penalties these days, modern forwards are equipped with. They wait for the touch. They just do that. So I see very few where you go, oh, fucking hell, the forward didn't have a chance there. Not 8 out of 10, I'd say they could have stayed on their feet had they chosen to. In old money, they might have done. Now, it's their job to not. If the touch is there, it's up to the defender not to make the touch. Yeah. But the narrative around us, I mean, the media jumped on it, and it's clear, I think, that the referees react to this. They're not immune. They're watching telly. They bang into football. They must be. I mean, it's their national profile. They must see the furore about it, and there's no coincidence Liverpool don't get another penalty passed about November last season. And same again. I mean, this is one of the most innocuous cases you'll ever fucking see as well, that Salah one, in terms of controversy.
He just kicks him, and it should be the end of it.
It doesn't matter how. All right, I was sitting with my dad who supports United, and he went, I'd take it. And that's exactly what everyone else should tell them. Would they take it or not? Or would they, if it was their own player, would they be going, oh no, oh God, that's going to be on Match of the Day tonight? That is not one where you go beforehand, oh, we're going to see a loads of headlines about this.
Because it doesn't need this palaver.
It doesn't need it. And then, I read a tweet from a very high-profile pundit yesterday about Harry Kane. He got a penalty, and it was like, oh, he bought that one, not sure it was in the box. So like dancing around the fact that it should just be saying that wasn't a penalty. Instead of, calling him out, and I'm not going to draw the lines just like you didn't because we don't need to, but there is something that they haven't got in common. And it's, as I said, we started with this point, it just doesn't need to be happening right now, because there will be times when we see it and we go, Jesus Christ,
well,
Salah,
messes with the narrative, which they're forgetting. They're fighting a former war, a war whereby a referee didn't have aided by VAR or camera, would spot it and could be totally hoodwinked by a dive. That was possible in the past, and it was done by players of all different hues, by the way. But now this is getting checked by an objective, independent secondary source. These aren't controversial, and yet they're still creating the same narrative as though they are.
It's not a clear and obvious error, even if you think it's an error. It's not an error, and that's the point. The point is they look at it and they go, well, it's not an error because he's kicked him. Don't kick him. You don't want to give a penalty away, don't kick him.
It's that old cliche, isn't it? Don't give them the decision to make.
You get punished for it. Lovren done it to Calvert-Lewin at Anfield a couple of years back. Calvert-Lewin was going away from goal, and
he clips him,
and he puts two hands in his back and pushes. You don't.
Never a pen, Jamie.
No. Listen, it's not. He's
a diving cheat.
No, but in today's game, they are then likewise the same time. Adam Lallana does the same thing a week later when we played them in the cup, or at home, and we get a pen likewise against Everton that way. I think Van Dijk scored the winner on his debut that game. So. That's just the way football is now, and if you're stupid and clumsy enough, like I've said, to make that contact, and that was just like he's kicked his back foot. I'd go down on a Wednesday night and step on the side if someone does that. You know what I mean? It's but you know what I mean. It's you're protecting. You protect. What else are you gonna do? Run away from goal? Do you know what I mean?
He gets nothing, Salah. That's the other thing that drives me mad. There was an incident in the same game when we were 1-0 down when their defender just waited for contact from Salah in the penalty area, but it was obviously in their penalty area. And Salah's a bit daft, and he just clips him, and he goes down, and there you go. Salah gets nothing. He gets no favours. He gets, there's times, Rob, where there's lads hanging off his neck, and he's still stood up, and he's still battling for the ball because he knows if he goes, he'll get nothing.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable how often he does stay up, isn't it? I mean, yeah, it's almost like it did get into his head at a point. I've seen him come, for God's sake, go down. For God's sake, go down. He's got like 3 on him. You think, they are touching him. They're all touching him at any one given moment. They're touching you, lad. Go over. But I'm not going to say he's the most honest footballer in the world, but it's a silly thing to even judge players by. That said, by
the way, the Mane one in the second half, that sort of just got glossed over, including we didn't really appeal for it, which ended with the Henderson shot, or just at the end of the first half.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, no one even looked back on that, and I was like, hang on, that looks awful. But I mean, to be fair, none of our players appealed, so maybe they just thought, let's sound this, and that's all right, and maybe it was our angle and all this sort of stuff because we're not in the ground. To me, straight away, I was like, that's a penalty.
I was sure that Spence, I can't even believe it wasn't even a free kick. The only debate was whether it was in or outside the box initially, and I was going to have it's definitely in if that fucking Fabinho one was in the week before. But I actually think, and I need to see it again, I know the one we get chalked off because Mane supposedly fouled the keeper. It's only because the fucking defenders ploughed into Mane, who was put his whole body weight on him.
Yeah, I was sort of all right with that. In that, I just think that stuff involving goalkeepers, you're always gonna almost like this is back to the language of footy. It sort of did me head in, and obviously at 1-1, I was prepared to die for the cause on it, but it was it was.
But it's the fact that the weight of the defender causes the danger more than anything. What annoyed me that instant more than whether I don't actually know what the full rights and wrongs are, but when what's his face, the ref Friend or Kevin Friend, when he goes over to check the bloody monitor, and this that's a big deal, it's a big performative thing. He goes over. He's only getting the one little view.
Doesn't get the second.
I'm thinking, hang on a second, isn't the benefit of this that he gets 3 or 4 views? Like we'd initially got 2 or 3 views,
and it was marginal.
It was marginal, but he's just showed Mane's foot hitting keeper. Mane's on a loop forever. Mane's foot hitting keeper. He's got no choice. Mane's
he's also not showing
stamping on the face of.
He's not showing the next passage of play. He's not showing that the keeper actually gets the opportunity to get up and get in the way, but doesn't get in the way. So, while I can totally understand it, because I do think that if there's a player on the pitch that needs protection, it's the keeper in those situations, and I think it's absolutely right to do that. I think that A, you're right, Mane is impacted to get there. B, he doesn't actually make the contact that you think the dangerous contact, and see the keeper actually gets up and makes the save but just doesn't make it.
The Liverpool then in general, Jamie, they start slow, and I think that this is something, and I think this is where the no crowd thing might be a problem at the minute for us. I think we quicken and quicken, and it's been the case in every one of these home games, but they do start slow. I think Alexander-Arnold and Henderson quicken it a lot second half, like they have a word at half time, but it was almost like they just couldn't get themselves moving in the early part of the game.
Yeah, I think that has been the worrying thing it's like, you know, I'm quite an optimist, but I think if one thing that's worried me, it has been the slow starts and the silly goals that we tend to give away early every week. That, you know, that they can all be avoided by our own, you know, error. And it's the fans are gonna. It makes a big difference. It's still nice to see that we can turn you know, deficits over in a stadium full of no fans, because
we can quicker. But
it is something that and listen, I think Jürgen's obviously, he's fully aware of that. I think that, you know, the lads are fully aware of that. It's just something that they need to. The only way that they can put it right is by going into the next game and starting quickly. You know what I mean? And finding those early gears.
They seem to me, Siobhan, to start faster away. So they start dead fast away at Chelsea. Like, they just dominate Chelsea early. They start unreal at Everton. Unreal at Everton, the way in which they start. Almost as though the idea of, right, we're going into their territory, we need to be absolutely on it, is easier for them psychologically than we're in our place, but there's no one. All of our friends aren't here. All of our supporters aren't here. And I do wonder if that is playing a part.
So when they play away, they're going into a bit of a pit, aren't they, of people, you know, of like angst towards them, and they're not facing that. And I wonder whether it's like a converse thing where they're suffering at home, but then Chelsea and Everton are suffering at home. Not Everton, because Everton are much better off with no fans. But whether it's just the reverse of that happening, and that means that they start faster because the opposition are just taking a little bit to...
Like the opposition almost like we are as well.
Yeah, exactly, that they're like, they haven't got the backing that they want. But like, you know, Klopp's not being shy about calling out the fans if they've not been... you know, if they've been unsupportive. Remember, it was Leicester last 2 seasons ago, wasn't it, where they were like, well, you didn't help because you were on us from 5 minutes. So that just goes to show that this like 12th man, you know, kind of shtick is not just a fallacy, because he totally believes that it makes a difference. So if it works in the, you know, you were rubbish, therefore we were rubbish, it's got to work the other way around, hasn't it? So I think he knows, as you said, he knows.
It's not. Go on.
I think there's almost a case then we're reminding the home team that they're not really at home. You know, that this is a neutral venue, that you don't get to dominate early proceedings, because this isn't a normal football match. I think it's quite. They actually do it against City at the Etihad last season, exactly the same, very fast start, which just goes terribly wrong.
Well, they missed some big chances, and I think I think when you want to have a chat about Firmino, I think he's really poor around their penalty area in that game, and I think that's the game he's never entirely recovered from. I think he's really poor. He misses a really good chance. He doesn't pass it quickly enough. He's off it, and that I still sort of have a bit of a through line from that one coming through to now, this idea of having confidence in yourself around the penalty area, because they should, in that game at the Etihad last year, Rob, they should be 2-0 up before City have scored one. We end up losing 4-0.
Yeah, Salah hits the post in that phase. We're totally dominant there, and it's just one of those things. What's the word? Things go City's way very quickly, and before you know, you can't be overstretched and overburden yourself against City. You're going to get exposed, and we did.
What I noticed, Jamie, in the game after we quicken it, West Ham can't get near us. They don't have a shot. They have the really late looping header from Souček that's just right into the keeper's hands. That's the last thing. They have a couple of chances just after half time, but there's like over half an hour where, never mind, they don't have a shot. They can barely get into our final third, I think, and that's when Liverpool have become Liverpool. That's when they were dominant, even if they weren't good.
Yeah, that was what I say. The last 20 minutes of that game, you could almost envision the crowds behind them, couldn't you? You know, spurring them on.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're miles ahead of I think every other team in the league. It's that we go back to that mentality that I started off with, when you're in the last 20 minutes of the game, when it's tough and your breath is, you know, you can't find your breath, and you know, whilst you've got to physically be everywhere, you've got to mentally be everywhere. And I think we're absolute masters of just applying that, pressing the right buttons for the, you know, just for the sustained periods of times, which ultimately just wear teams down. And I think it does come from the games. Just going back on the quick starts and the slow starts, I do think once Thiago is in that, I think once we've got that midfield three that we know is our best, in my opinion, which is Fabinho, Henderson and probably Thiago, based on what I've seen this season, I think it will be a lot quicker then, because Thiago is one of those players who gets things moving quickly and stuff like that. So I'm not, it is worrying. I think once we've got, you know, our defence sorted out in terms of, we know that's how we're going to have to be for the next few months, and the midfield's back playing regularly, I think that will come. But yeah, I think the last 20 minutes against West Ham, it went back to like men against boys. We are, you know, it was like almost telling them, listen, we are a proper football team, you aren't.
I think they start, and the when they are a bit blunt, the one thing they are doing is they're just continually moving and working West Ham. And I do wonder what when against boys their last 20, you know, the fitness idea. West Ham looked shattered last half an hour against City. They put everything in because they've got to stay in shape. They've all got to work so hard. And I do sort of wonder that what at times to us maybe looks a bit blunt. It's maybe not quite as ineffective as we think. Yes, it's frustrating. You want to see chances. You want to see us be the dominant force in all the ways, Rob. But I do wonder whether or not we are just at times the same to an extent with Sheffield United, although they finish strong. We are just beginning to wear sides down a bit more than we think. It's interesting that we keep scoring towards the end of halves as well.
There were phases in that game where I thought we weren't moving as a front three properly. It was too static at times. And that's why I think the Shaqiri Jota thing really helps, because they come on just oozing with movement. In the first half, it's static until Mane sorts of injects something into it. Do you remember he plays a quick reverse ball into Firmino's feet, and they
back
get
over to Robbo.
Yeah, that's the one where Robbo hits the volley at the back.
Should have given that to Henderson, actually.
Yeah. So we remembered who we were at times, but we're drifting out. I thought we were drifting out concentration in our attacking. What was interesting, I think, which was throwing us, West Ham, and of those who did it, and it was a Midtjylland did it in the week, they totally neutralised our left-hand side. Everything came down our right in both those games. Because Robbo was constantly checking that onto his right foot and having to come back into central midfield. It wasn't apart from that volley Jamie's talking about. When did you see Robbo bombing down the line? He wasn't allowed to. They were overloading on that side to stop that happening. Obviously, all the research, because you look at Liverpool the first few games, like Chelsea and whatever, it's all coming down the left, isn't it?
Yeah. Even at the start of the Everton game.
Yeah, it's all left. So they decided, I think both Midtjylland and West Ham, they've done their scouting, we'll stop the left. I mean, obviously, that's why, funnily enough, people going, Trent looks better. No shit, he looks better. He's getting the ball now. And he has looked better, but that's what's been happening.
But it's why, I'll come back to you on that I felt at the start of the season there was a lot of people, because everyone knows how good Trent is. I thought a lot of sides were trying to stop Trent, keep Trent out of the game. And you can only do so much. And again, for us at times it can look a bit ugly, it can look a bit blunt, we're sort of watching it. But what we're actually finding out here is Klopp, by the time he gets in at half time, goes, okay, so they want to stop us there, so we've got to do more there, and then more comes from that side.
Benitez's duvet theory, if you like, but more laterally than back to front than he meant it. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. I definitely think that. I think Trent has been up against it since the beginning of last season, to be honest with you. After his unbelievable campaign during the Champions League winning run, and the profile, the attention to him after the corner taking quickly stuff, and the world woke up to the fact that he was on the verge of world class. You noticed it from the game one last season that Trent was being stymied, that they weren't just going, whatever you do not let Trent Alexander in space 30 yards from goal whip in a perfect Beckham-like ball. You don't let that happen, and it's not happening very often these days. But I thought it was interesting in midweek against Midtjylland that he looks, first signs he's adapting his game, Trent, to come inside more. Looked like a bit of a midfielder to me. He goes on one little mazy run, doesn't he? Actually beats 2 or 3 men, and I thought, you're going to score a Gerrard goal here.
But you just on that, Siobhan, if you might, the goal, the Jota goal, you can draw a square around 6 or 7 Liverpool players, which I think is really interesting. So you talked before about how congested it was for West Ham, but Liverpool actually are almost going 7v7 in the tiniest rectangle you can imagine. But it's almost 7v7. It's like playing 5-a-side it's like playing 7-a-side on a 5-a-side pitch. They're just and I wonder if that could be a bit of Liverpool's plan at times. Forget trying to go round them all the time. Let's just go through them.
Just create complete options in the middle there and just crowd them out. And I think that's why we've probably underestimated Shaqiri's intelligence to pick the one that isn't congested, to go all right, well, I'm never getting it to you because you're in the way. Yeah. And just, that's dead unexpected. I think you think of him as this obviously everyone calls him the power cube, and you think of him as this he's got no dimensions to him, he's just going to do the simple thing and maybe do it wrong, but the intelligence it takes to go, right, I could do that, and it's probably just going to it's too congestive for them to do anything effective here. I'm going to take the one that no one's looking at and take that option instead.
It sounds almost alehouse to say you turn it into a massive game of 7v7 in a tiny space, but I think we do it, Jamie. I think it's a really interesting thing, and I've seen City try and do it a couple of times recently, because as sides get deeper and deeper and they go narrower and narrower and go, you're really good, so we're just going to not let you near our goal, to almost go, well, we're going to go to where you've got the most players, we're going to put all of our players in there, and we're going to pop, and we've done that a couple of times.
Well, you've only got to look at the training that they do, Neil. We've
been lucky to see it.
We've been lucky to see it on pre-season tours and stuff, and the lads are just constantly doing rondos, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the quality of those, like, it's frightening really when you see the small space that they're in and how they nip it about. So, and they're not even, you know, the passes that they pick, you don't even see. And I think that's by and large down to how teams try and compress us. Do you know what I mean? And it's right what you're saying. Like, if listen, they mark the front three, that gives us the ability to push the fullbacks on, you know what I mean? Maybe gives them a bit more space. If they neutralise that whole sort of threat of the front three getting into those channels, and likewise the fullback getting into those channels, then
through the middle.
It literally is. It's other than going long ball. Do you know what I mean? It's the next. It's better than going long ball, isn't it? You know what I mean? And
it's just so much harder to get right though, isn't it?
You're sort of playing blockers, you know, like on a corner where you have two men to try and block people so Van Dijk can come through the back. Yeah. In a way, that's what Mane's doing on the goal. It's almost like a rugby thing where your scrums moving forward. You create so many bodies that you can get it into feet and they can't get rid of it, and you can hold the ball up 6 yards from frigging goal and wait for a man to lay it off to, or get the thread like you do to Jota.
I think it's really interesting. I think it's something that we've seen a couple of times this season. I think we're going to see more of it. We will move ourselves a lot. And a very little Jarrod Bowen in the game. Pin Liverpool back, though. I think he was there to pin Robertson back. But we will check that one out and look at it separately. Talk about Atalanta in a minute. Jamie's in, and it's completely coincidental. It really is. It's one of these things that sort of comes together. He's had some big news today, so December 2021, your live shows at the Olympia. That's playing the long game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
ambitious lad.
Yeah, no, listen, I'd love to be.
You'd love it to be tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd love it to be after I've finished this podcast. I'd love to walk outside and walk down to the Olympia and play to as many people as I could. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're just trying to in this time now as a musician and like we are here at the Anfield Rap, you know, we've just got to look forward, haven't we? We can't really dwell too much on what's happening. I'm writing about what's happening, you know what I mean, and that will come out at a later date. But you know, in terms of like what I can actually do now, it's just about looking forward. And you know, December 2021. Hopefully, it's a safe bet that I'm doing 2 nights.
Best I'd be, mate. Honestly,
I believe
the amount of times I've thought December 2020 was going to be a safe bet this year.
Yeah, I believe honestly, but no, we're doing 2 shows back to back at the Olympia, and like It's a nice thing because we've all been to concerts, gigs, even, you know, fights at the Olympia over the years, whatever.
Unofficial.
It's a historic, massively historic venue in the city. Played Boss Nights there, and I've always remember standing at Boss Nights and thinking, I'd love to do this.
But you said no footy songs at this one.
No footy songs. That's what I'm saying.
Bring your blue mates.
Yeah, and even any Manx from Warrington or Tranmere fans from over the water, you're all welcome at this one. But like I say, it was just, I remember standing on the stage thinking, after coming off playing the Boss Nights, obviously playing Liverpool songs, I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could get to a stage where I played this venue with my own music? And thankfully, my management think that I can do 2 nights back to back, which I thought was ambitious. But you know, if you wanted to, you know,
you'll have to go home after that first night, you know.
Yeah. Oh no, believe me. I'm quite disciplined on tours and stuff like that. You know, I'm not too bad. And then in addition to that, I've got the live vinyl from Park Street that we're bringing out as a bit of a stock and filler for Christmas.
Is that just on the live vinyl, quick, when you said before about trying to find ways, I know you love playing live, I've seen you play live loads, you absolutely adore it. Was that as well almost in part saying, let's do something that's just a bit raw? The record's raw anyway, but the idea of just capturing something quick and trying to put as much energy into it as possible.
Yeah, I mean, like, as much as playing in front of an audience is what, you know, what gets you up in the morning. Even just playing with the lads I've got in my band, it's just, you know, for me it's brilliant. It lifts you up, it really does. You know, it takes you somewhere else, even when you're just playing in a room with 4 lads. Do you know what I mean? And so we wanted to do it anyway because, you know, content. It's hard to find so much content over such a long period of time. So this was something that we planned to do, and you know, I'm made up with how it sounds, the vinyl. It's great work from the lads at Park Street as always, Chris Taylor, and you know, thanks to Jim Sharrett, Tim Cunningham and Danny Murphy, not the footballer Danny Murphy. He's actually an Evertonian, this lad who plays guitar for me, but he's been my mate since school, and yeah, thanks to them for doing it, and hopefully everyone, you know, get behind it. More details on it will be released soon, and yeah, thank you for your overwhelming support with the album and everything. And yeah, just, you know, if you fancy a nice little stock and filler, something different, something to listen to on Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, whatever you like, get yourselves a copy.
Excellent stuff. Do so and buy tickets for the Olympia as well.
Yeah,
2021. We all need things to look forward to. We need things to look forward to. So December 2021, you can look forward to that. We can look forward a tiny little bit.
It's only around the corner.
It's only around the corner.
Yeah. We'll be league champions again by then and European champions. So
we will be
to look forward to in the meantime.
That'd be nice.
We will, because we're going to get a result against Atlanta. Maybe we're not going to get a result against Atalanta. Not Atlanta. I keep saying Atlanta and it's rude. Atalanta is the name of the football team. There can be no Nat Phillips, Rob. Really enjoyed your tweet. And a lot of people quick to correct you, aren't they, on the internet? Quick to correct you. Yeah, good lads. So how strong could he go?
The team I picked, excluding Nat Phillips, he's limited for choice because
Matip and Keita are both in full training.
And the Keita, and it helps things as well. There's got to be a temptation. When Matip last plays in the derby, so that's a fortnight ago. You may want to give him minutes. Do you bring him on as a sub? It's a weird one, a centre half as a sub. If you don't, then you go. I think he's probably thinking Reece Williams, and he has to play Joe Gomez. He hasn't really got cover for Trent, so Trent's probably going to be asked to go again.
Not Nico?
Sorry, he has got cover for Trent. It's Nico, and I put him in the team I predicted. It's definitely Nico. He hasn't got cover for Robbo because Simicast.
Not Milner?
No.
Not again.
No, not a left back, I don't think. I think he asks Robbo to go one more. Maybe he brings him off, I don't know. But Nico, I think, is a good shout, and I did say that this morning. One of those I might get right. Milner, I put in my midfield, but if Keita's there, who did I put? Milner and Curtis.
Yeah.
No.
Not put Curtis in?
No, I'm Curtis in Atalanta. I just don't want to see. I don't want Thiago mainly, maybe because he needs minutes. Maybe Thiago.
But he's not in full training. I think Thiago's ruled out.
I wouldn't even do it.
Risk it. Would you not do? Why wouldn't you do Curtis?
I think he's still got an awful lot to learn, and I think
he's finding it tough.
Maybe I don't think he thinks he's finding it tough. You know what I mean? I think he thinks he's the best player in the side, and which is refreshing to see. And I'm not, I wouldn't ever want him to take that away from himself, because to be confident in yourself is massive in football. Look what Pogba's done off it. You know what I mean? But Curtis is a good young player, but I still think he's got a lot to learn, and I think I'm not calling him out or anything like that, because he is a young lad and I want him to do well. He's a local lad. This isn't me, starting the lynch mob for Curtis Jones. But I just think in the games that he's played, I think last year the games that he played against inferior opposition, he looked good. But this he played against Ajax, didn't really do it for me. I think even against West Ham the other day, I just think he's still got a lot to develop mentally in terms of link-up play.
I think he's struggling to find space all of a sudden, Siobhan, in a way that I think might have surprised him. And I think when he gets on the ball, you see all of his quality. I think it's really interesting now. Maybe it's tactically a tiny little bit different, but also I think the other thing that's happening is he's coming up against good players who are treating him like a good player, and I think that's a thing that can kick you a bit as a footy player when you're coming through. Like suddenly they're acting like I'm one of the really good lads. Oh,
don't
God,
they know
that's
I'm still a kid? Yeah. I do think. I think you're right. Like he's struggling to find a space for himself, and he's probably getting himself caught a little bit. And I do actually think his decision making's been a little bit off. I think that he picked the wrong pass a couple of times against West Ham, and I think that there's only so often that your Hendersons will let him away with that kind of thing. But you're right. I hadn't thought about it being a perspective of him kind of being a bit of an unknown entity before.
But also, like, Ajax are treating you like it's Ajax's biggest game of the month. Liverpool at their gaff. You're playing. You're getting treated like you're our biggest opponent. Yeah. That's the way you're treating Curtis, and I think that's what you're seeing a little bit. Yeah,
and I guess what Ajax have done there is they've gone, all right, though, so he played his part in a title-winning season, so of course he's going to be dead good, and he's exposed a little bit there. But I think Atalanta might not be a bad one for him, because it's I might be mobbed for saying this, I think it's quite a low-risk game. In that, if we don't get the win in that game, it's not the end of the world. If we don't get a result against City, it's the end of the world in our heads. It's not, obviously, but I think that you win. Your hardest game, I know Atalanta and Ajax away are kind of equal
but you've won one of them.
Game, but you've won one of them. The one you're probably first game back, first game in Europe. Not a great performance, but you still managed to win, albeit with the most ridiculous goal you've ever seen. So I think that there's enough space, there's enough margin for error against Atalanta for Curtis Jones to have a go, particularly when you are missing, your Thiagos. You might want to give some.
No Thiago, no Fabinho. Yeah. You've got City on the horizon.
It's a bit of a free. Yes, it's a bit of a free hit. And they're also a bit of a mad side. So you could play our strongest 11 and somehow come out of having lost 3-0 and wondering how it happened. Yeah. Or you could play the second stringers with Curtis and Origi and get a nice little result there. It's quite possible.
It reminds me, you mentioned before, Jamie, right top of the show, you mentioned Everton last December when Shaqiri plays and scores. And I wouldn't be averse to him doing something similar. Loads of direct running, they leave space in behind. They're really flamboyant. They're an exciting team. But all I'm thinking is there might be a big argument to basically go with Origi, go with Shaqiri, maybe go with Mane and say you'll give Mane an hour and look at it again, and just go with loads of direct running over the top and just look to see if you can hurt them. Yeah,
I think it's a tough one for me. I think we should, in Europe, get the job done early. I'm not saying play your best team, but I think they are a good team going forward. I've seen the highlights.
And you don't want to get whacked.
No, you don't want to get whacked.
No.
I've seen the highlights going forward there. Got highlights of the game for the weekend. 2 greatly taken goals, by the way, by that Colombian centre forward they've got. So they're not a bad team. And I think you need players with a bit more discipline. So I'd like in the midfield, but without risking. I think I'd almost go for a Milner, Wijnaldum, Keita. Yeah,
that would work.
You know what I mean. Milner, Wijnaldum. Yeah. Or maybe even Milner, Wijnaldum, Shaqiri, and maybe play Milner at left back, because Robert, listen, we're playing Man City at the weekend. Yeah. We're playing Man City at the weekend. I think just defensively strong team with the likes of Dennis Shaqiri who can pick a pass, a Jota and Origi, people who can bring a little bit different. They can go in behind, but with Jota in there, he can come short. Maybe even Minamino as well. But
yeah, I think the other thing to remember here is the 5 subs.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of something that could be massive for him, Rob. So he could start Mane and think, well, I'll do Mane for an hour and Salah for half an hour. He could start none of the front 3, but think I'm doing them all on 60, no matter what the score is. They're all getting half an hour. And if it's tight at that point, well, we're saying, well, look at what we're bringing on. Yeah. I think the biggest and because we're not used to it. So at the minute in Italy, because they're a sensible league run by sensible people, you can have 5 subs. So Atalanta are used to it and they use it to their advantage at the weekend. I wonder if, because we're sort of not and we don't think like that, but the Liverpool manager obviously does, he's not a stupid man, he might be thinking, for instance, well, I'll do Henderson first half and Wijnaldum second, and we'll do it that way, or I'll do this and this, or I'll do the 3, I'll either do the 3 for an hour and then take them off, or I'll do the 3 for half an hour and start. I think that's the bit why I understand why we all have to do predicted teams, but 5 subs almost makes a bit of a mockery of it in a game like this.
Yeah, I do think though that there's an element of you're still working back from that team you're picking against City, whatever you're doing, and I think you go, I can give some of these lads 25 minutes, half an hour, but you give them an hour plus, it starts to feel risk takey. Yeah. So there's an idea that you might start Andy Robbo with a view that he's your first change on 55, say, or
even on 45.
Could be, couldn't it? And then I think there's the wholesale front 3 switch, like he did last time, bringing the A squad on 55. He actually brought them on quite early last time, didn't he? 55 or 60. Before, even slightly before 60. I mean, you might just bring on 2 of them. I don't know. I think you're right, but I think the main, in a sense, though, it's a nice game because in the sense that we can just go compact and we've got assets on the counter-attack, whoever we pick. They're all good counter-attacking footballers.
And Shaqiri to pass. I'd definitely start Shaqiri. I'd definitely start Jota.
I'd sit deep.
That's my argument for not playing Jones, because I think it is a game where we need to use our resources that can be compact, you know what I mean? And I think Curtis Jones is probably better off in a game where we're going to be... we're going to be dictating the play, and he's got a bit more license to express himself. Do you know what I mean? I think it really is especially with the, probably Reece Williams playing at the back. You want to give him as much support as possible. And I think you're right, definitely go compact, but I'd go with experience at the same time. And like you said, perfect. Origi's a curveball in a game like this. Do you know what I mean? They're probably not expecting him to play. Jota, they'll know
they're getting Jota.
Yeah, I think this is the games. These are the games that you are going to see Jota start from. I think it's better to play him from the start in these games. And even Minamino, who hasn't looked great to me, but I think this is a game where it's a very European game, isn't it? So he can maybe he can show us a bit more of what he can do. You know what I mean? I think that'd be, and he's defensively in terms of the spaces that he takes up off the ball. He's a pretty safe player in that aspect. That'd be me.
I think it'd be nice to be able to sit in and frustrate a team for a change. You know what I mean? No, but seriously,
we've got to watch this, don't you?
I know. I quite like old school European.
Oh, come on! I'm going to the pub last Saturday. Don't make me sit through that.
Old school European.
No, I'm into an old school European away.
They can't. They get frustrated. It's not what they want.
Why aren't you playing? We thought you'd play. Oh, look, you were just counter-attacked us and scored 1-0.
Yeah, they're us 3 years ago, where teams still came at us and we could absolutely tear them apart on the break. But we don't need to come at Atalanta.
A draw's a good result.
It's an absolutely great result. result.
Okay, thank you
Get
very much.
the job done early, innit?
Yeah, thank you very much to Jamie, to Rob, and to Siobhan. It has been the Anfield Wrap this week, looking back at your game against West Ham United, looking ahead to Atalanta. It's all about energy and it's all about staying positive. See you later.